No, I appreciate that.
No. You know what's the weirdest thing is that we recently started to talk on Skype, and oddly enough, I was like, I was expecting the same style that I was seeing in your work. I was like, I was expecting that in this form and matter, and I'm going, yeah, this is him in a certain way. And I'm like, yeah. I was expecting, in a certain weird way, I was like expecting.
Well, I guess I did a better job than I thought of really characterizing it.
Yeah, well, at first I think it's kind of, I don't know for me, but it's kind of weird how things come into its place for something like a show for pastel ponies that really was intended for audiences for girls at a teenage age of them. And not only it began, it like exploded in some way. I like to see it as that. I mean, it's one of those things that you didn't expect it to happen. I mean, if you would have talked to me 5 years before or 6 years before that I was going to like the show of pastel ponies, in the future I would say you're nuts or something like that. Or the mention of My Little Pony back then for me.
You too, huh?
Yeah, back then for me, My Little Pony it's for girls. I mean, why would I watch a show for girls? That was my mind. I mean, I knew that a lot of girls were into Star Wars and into Star Trek, and then the people every people accepted it, and yeah, it's okay, nice. Like they were like nice, all that thing. but when it's the other way around, I'm like, are you crazy? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. That was just my thinking. I never expected it. Yeah, go ahead.
Every preconceived notion that I had about the show came from the second generation.
You know, I've heard a lot of the first generation, and they say that the first generation was a dark show. Even though it was a kid show back in the 80s, it was still a dark and gloomy show. And it's still intended for kids. But it was in a weird way. I don't know. It's kind of, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen the actual show itself. The only close enough that I could say I watched some movie, it was a review that Dr. Wolf at Firebrand did on a Christmas special for Generation 3 of My Little Pony.
Minnie's Christmas?
Yeah, that one.
Thing?
Yeah, have you seen that one?
Yeah, I watched it too. Yeah, the guy that runs
Generation 3 and Generation 3.5. That's how I
don't know. I think my hell would be listening to Justin Bieber 24/7.
Oh, okay. Here's the thing. Would it be in the same hell if Featherbangs were singing a lot of Justin Bieber songs in a parody way?
Do what?
It would have been the same hell, the same way if Featherbangs sang in a parody of Justin Bieber 24/7 for you?
Nah. Only the real thing can torture me the way Bieber does.
So you really like the Justin Bieber like of MLP Featherbanks? No.
He's a lot more tolerable than the real thing. And really, when you think about that episode, you know, you as a fan, you know, you're going to side with Big Mac because you already know and love that big lunk. Thing is, him and Featherbangs are basically doing the exact same thing. They're trying to get Sugar Bell's attention. The reason we pull for Big Mac is because we don't know who... I mean, we really don't know who Featherbangs is. So it's pretty easy to sweep him under the rug. And I really, really love the way they did the ending of that episode because, like I said, they could have just as easily, you know, he lost, so he's forgotten about and blah, blah, blah. No, the Crusaders actually talk to him and kind of help him solve his own little problem that he's having. So, I mean, I thought it was handled. I thought it was handled very well. That was surprising. That was a pleasant surprise.
Well, you know what? And here's the thing. It's I don't know. It's not like they were competing. I think like Featherbanks in a certain way acted. I think he had a little bit more in between those two. Featherbanks had a little bit more confidence in itself than Big Mac in a certain way, but it didn't change anything from the storyline. It's true, they were competing the same way, but
the thing is...
Yeah, go ahead.
The thing is, you know, he didn't have any real confidence. Any confidence that he displayed was all a front. Because, I mean, he flat out told the Crusaders, is like, wait a minute, you mean actually talk to those other girls that have been following him around? It's like, you mean actually talk to them? It's like, that scares the, you know, that,
okay.
Like, I'm too scared to do that.
Okay.
So he was just as nervous as Big Mac was. He just, the way he dealt with it and coped with it was completely opposite of the way Big Mac would have usually.
I mean, that ending in the finale, it was okay. So that's something that it triggered my mind. Okay, if you're afraid to talk to girls, then how in the hell did you talk to Sugar Bell and trying to be this freaking Casanova over here? While on the other hand, at the last ending, at the last of the minutes of the ending, you were like, I'm too scared to talk to girls. Okay, then who is she? Is she the middle sex of the thing? Is she by gender thing?
I think the term that applies here is overcompensation.
Yeah.
He didn't have any real confidence. He kind of, you know, inflated his personality and his ego, you know, instead of, you know, just kind of drawing in and keeping to himself like Big Mac usually does. You know, he kind of externalized it, you know, and kind of went for all the kind of went for the attention in all the wrong ways.
You know what? You're kind of right, but
which is a very real thing that happens. Trust me, I've seen it.
Yeah, I think I feel Featherbanks' pain. At the end of it, still, I think I feel in a certain way a little bit of empathy for Featherbanks because in a certain way I feel too. But I'm more into Big Macintosh, a certain lack of confidence and all that thing towards Sugar Bell. And here's the thing that I think I consider it my greatest gift.
But that goes back to the bias because we know Big Mac, we know how he is. You know, we know his backstory.
Oh,
so I mean that allows you to kind of sympathize or empathize with him a little more since you know him. Whereas, who is this other douchebag? You know.
True. That's true. That is one point for that point. That is one point. But here's one thing that I considered myself as a gift for me, even though I know it wasn't intended on the long term. But this is a gift that I got from Dr. Wolf. This is a very curious detail that he was explaining to right now that he posted it, curiously enough, on my birthday. And that the thing is that that Big Mac has this strange thing for unicorns. It's like deep down inside of him, he really wants to be a unicorn. Is that like, for instance, in the episode of "Do Princesses Sleep of Magic Sheep" or something, like the one in which everybody
He becomes an
dreams.
alicorn
Yeah, he becomes an alicorn. And curious
in a Sailor Moon cut.
yes, in the same way, in the Sailor Moon parody reference thing. But here's
And
the thing.
his Ogres and Oubliettes character is a unicorn, Sir McDiggin.
And her girlfriend, it turns to be, who would have thought of it, a unicorn. So everything that he was pointing on Dr. Wolf in a certain way was like, this guy wants to be a unicorn. And he really did explain that it would be interesting if they brought this up in season 8, that deep down inside he wants to be a unicorn for any reasons unknown. But I think is one of those. I think is one of those hints that Hasbro might give us or some way, because that's the same thing that they did on Adventure Time, in which they give a little bit of hints of Finn losing his arm before the episode happened of him actually losing his arm. So it's
like in the Farm World where he had a mechanical arm, and in his past life, Shoko didn't have an arm.
Yeah,
she ended up getting a mechanical arm from Princess Bubblegum.
Yes, and everything happened. Everything hinted for the reason on the episode in which he loses his actual arm again. But this time was for real, and he did actually lose his arm. So maybe in a certain way, it's like Dr. Wolf, in a certain way, it's giving, maybe it's onto something, and maybe the show, in a certain way, maybe I'm not, I could be wrong on this point, but maybe they're going to tackle. Yeah, maybe they will tackle on the thing that Big Macintosh wants to be a unicorn, and maybe he will become a unicorn. I mean, I think that will be something of a shock for everybody. I mean, I wouldn't have expected it, but then again, who knows? Maybe I could be wrong and all that thing. Also, another gift, and also not intended for me, but I consider it a gift too, is that who would have thought of it? I don't know if you are subscribed to Lightning Bliss, but I don't know, but Lightning Bliss's mom, who in the OC, in the pony world that she created, Gentle Feather, if I'm not mistaken, that's the name of her mom, is actually born on October 23rd. I was like, really? I mean, I didn't, out of all the people that I was like, really? I was like, you know what? Here's the thing. I'm a little bit skeptical in a certain way, because in the post that she did on her YouTube account, it says that her OC mom, Gentle Feather, is her birthday. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe she changed the day of her birthday just to protect her or something like that. But I'm pretty sure she was born on the 23rd. But I'm a little bit skeptical that she was born in October. Maybe she was born on May or November. Or
the Crusader of Carne.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. Yes, because I love my meat. I would consider myself a meat lover, and I wouldn't consider myself a vegetarian or a vegan. No, I wouldn't do that. No, I'm not. I'm not a person who would do that. Or, I wouldn't do that. That's one of those things. I wouldn't consider myself a vegan, and that would be one of those perks that, like I said, And that's one of those things that I'm like thinking and
I'm
saying.
definitely omnivorous.
Wait, you?
Omnivorous.
Oh, you're a vegan?
No, omnivorous means you eat meat and veggies.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you're in the same boat as me.
I'm a meat and taters kind of guy.
Hmm. Oh, yeah, so we're on the same boat here, so... Like I said, I'm not one of those people who like bear. No, I need to have... But here's the strange thing. Even though I like meat, I have to suffer at the same rate into going to the fish department. I mean, here's the thing. Here's the weirdest thing of... Yeah, I'm not a big on fish either. But I like my fish and if it's on sushi, which is which it has rice. That is the only way I would eat a fish. Is that it has to be with rice, and that is one of those things that, or it has to be prepared in a certain way that I would not taste the fish on it, and it's kind of weird for me. And
I'm not into the sushi thing.
Yeah, I'm for me, I'm like a very specific kind of guy who has to eat fish in a certain way that it doesn't taste like fish. Like for instance, there's P.F. Chang's in a certain. For those of you who've tasted P.F. Chang's, there's a certain kind of shrimp. I don't know if it's the lemon shrimp or there's something to do with shrimp. And I like that shrimp because it doesn't taste like shrimp. It has flavor. That's the thing that I want to go in on this, is that I like my fish and my shrimp that has to do with flavor. I think in a certain way, I think I like popcorn shrimp from Red Lobster because of it. I remember my mom telling me that every time we went to Yuma, which is in Arizona, which is old people, the state of the old people. Oh yeah, Arizona, unlike Florida, is considered old people country. That is how that's how I view it in a certain way. And every time we went to Yuma, we stopped by Red Lobster, and as a kid, I always liked popcorn shrimp. And again, like I said, I like.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with lobster. They got some good stuff.
Like I said,
their biscuits are absolutely amazing too.
Oh,
I'm not a big bread eater. Like eating biscuits for.
Oh, don't get me started on that biscuits that Red Lobster does. Oh, fuck no. I mean, that's something. Oh my god! I've tasted even if you put it on the next day, and if you freeze it, and if you go on and if you reheat it, it will still taste as good as the first day. I'm not kidding you. And those are one of those perks that I'm going and saying, you know what, it's worth it, or it's worth the waiting, or it's worth anything that I have to endure.
Usually what we do when we go to Red Lobster. Good.
No, you go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, sorry, you go ahead. You were saying about Red Lobster thing. That was just right.
Usually what we do is we'll get a separate box just to put the biscuits in and bring those home and just kind of munch off of those for 3 days.
I'm pretty sure you're one of those guys who stuffs a box, a chow down box, a big box, just to fill in the cheddar biscuits of Red Lobster and Red Lobster alone. You can never go wrong with Red Lobster. I'm just going to say that. It was one of those things that I could really say I'm a huge fan of those. Like I said, I like my fish as well, but it has to be. I'm a very picky with my fish. That's the thing. It has to be with rice, It has to be like sashimi or in sushi, or it has to be very flavorful fish, in which I don't have to taste the fishiness on the meat. That is one of those reasons that I love P.F. Chang's.
I'm not a big fan of fish flavor.
Yeah, but then again, like I said, I'm a huge fan of P.F. Chang's shrimp. I think it's the one that I'm talking about is the shrimp melon, and there's another one that they have on P.F. Chang's. Those are the only ones that I would say I would eat seafood in somewhere. That would be P.F. Chang's because it has flavor. I like my fish to have flavor. But then again, like I said, I'm not a huge. Other than that, I'm not a huge fan. Other than that, I'm not a huge fan of fish. For me, like I said, for me,
I especially don't like soup.
I don't know.
I'm call that stuff bait.
I don't know. I don't know if I never tried it on soup, but then again, I'm not one of those things that I was going to say. I'm going to try it someday, or something like that. I would be very skeptical, or something. You would have to convince me very hard to say I would try something like that in my right there. So, like I said, I'm a die-hard meat eater from here to Kingdom Come. That's how hard of a meat eater I am. Other than that, I wouldn't say anything. But on to
beef, pork, and poultry.
Oh yes, I think that would be one of those problems that if we ever go to Equestria, is it like, do they eat meat? And that is one of those topics that I saw. They never talk about it. That's the weirdest thing. They never talk about it, and they never talk about people eating meat.
They never eat meat, so why would they talk about it?
That's and it's it me? Okay. I'm going to the philosophical part on this, and here's the thing: is it me, or even the movie never hinted any other race, hippogriffs, any race of all talking about meat? Is it me, or am I the only one that hinted on it, that said nobody has talked about meat on even the movie before?
Well, wasn't there an episode where Fluttershy fed a worm to a fish, or a worm to a bird, or something like that?
May have a point there. Maybe. But that's one of those scenes in which it would very pass on by for me. It wasn't that impact on me. But the thing that was very impacted on me is on Twilight Time, in which the one thing that we know that it includes meat on it had to be hay burgers or hay dogs or anything that had to do with hay. I mean, obviously not, because they are horses. But I don't know. And
their hot dog actually just carrots on a bun.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I'm like, that would be the only perk that I would go and say, yeah, that would be one of those skeptical things that I'm saying. No, there must be people out there, and there must be. I'm going to say this much: there must be people in Equestria that has to love meat, but they're censoring it because of reasons. Because Hasbro, because reasons. Hasbro and government conspiracy. That's all I'm going to say about that. Like I said, I'm skeptical about that. And the fact that they don't like, yeah, there are people out there that love meat. It's just they don't talk about it. I don't know. That's just me.
Well, here's the thing that I mean. I guess this is just me reading too much into it, but they drink milk and they eat eggs, and well, the eggs don't have anything to do with what I'm saying, but I mean they drink milk, and cows are intelligent creatures in Equestria, which when you think about it or overthink it, that's actually kind of creepy. That's like buying breast milk at the grocery store.
Well, if you're going all philosophical on this, it's kind of like the same, like in the one that Jerry Seinfeld made, the movie, the B movie. It's kind of like going.
I never saw it.
There's one movie that I think Jerry Seinfeld made it, or I don't know who did it, but it was. I
think it was the B movie. I just never saw it.
Yeah, it was in the B movie. They were talking about honey, and the fact of people stealing honey. That thing. You were going. I mean, it's the same thing as I never saw the movie, but I saw like hints of the thing that were going. On the story is that basically humans are stealing the bees' honey without their permission. That's the thing that they were hinting on. And I think in Equestria, and this, if we're going off philosophical here, I'm pretty sure they were asking permission from the cows to give their milk to their little foals on Equestria. Because their little foals need milk, even though they can give milk themselves from their own body from mares. But then again, this is Equestria, this is My Little Pony, and reasons. Like I said, Hasbro, corporation, and government conspiracy, all that hinted that they don't want you, and they asking permission from the cows.
Another question. Which raises another question.
Yeah.
Because I know there are a lot of people these days that for some reason take issue with women breastfeeding their children in public. So...
Oh, I know what you're going to. Okay, I know what you're going to.
Would that be an issue in Equestria with nursing their foals in public?
Yeah, I was thinking about that as soon as you were talking about it. Yeah. That is... And
I don't normally think of questions like this as it pertains to the show, but
yeah, that was
I seem to be on a roll tonight.
Yeah, that is one of those things that makes you question of why they're asking the cows to give their milk when they can give them themselves. But in the same way, they're giving milk. These cows are giving their milk because of reasons. Because again, Hasbro.
But you could ask humans the same thing. Like, why are you feeding your baby formula when you produce, you naturally
Okay, here's my, and this is my 2 cents, and this is coming from my mom. This is a story coming from my mom, and like I said, I was like very, very little about this, but I remember my mom telling to myself that she wanted to breastfeed me when I was a very little kid. But I rejected her breast milk, and I didn't want her breast milk, and I only wanted formula milk of it. and like I said, and this is coming from my mom.
Very retired.
I wasn't very picky. Okay, I'm going to say this I'm just saying this from the stories that my mom told me when I was a baby, and saying that I was a very picky eater when I was even when I was little. I was a very picky little eater. I'm just going to say that, and because of breastfeeding and reasons. I'm just hinting this because my mom told me of that story, and like I said, I couldn't say to you of it myself because I was very little. Another story that I'm going to say this because it's my birthday and it's my 30th birthday, is that my father, God rest his soul, of all the people, it's a very funny story of how it began. And I was, by this time I was like 6 months old, and I was going to my grandma's house like every day of the year that I was born on that day. And this day I was 6 months old. And my dad stopped by to a local liquor store. But here they're not liquor stores, they're like, in Spanish, they have another name in Spanish, but it's not considered a liquor store. They have more than liquor. They have chips, it's kind of like a market in certain ways. Yeah, you can say your local market in a sort of way, and there's certain limits in a sort of way. But then again,
kind of like a convenience store.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like a convenience store. Yeah, I'm hinting at that. And so he went to this convenience store, and he looked into a certain a beverage. But at that time, he didn't consider it as a beverage. He thought it was kind of like a soda or Coca-Cola for that sort. He didn't think it was liquor at that time. So he was very ignorant of it. So he bought one for himself, and he bought one for me. And he gave that bottle for me. So those of you who know what I'm talking about, so he gave me wine cooler, but like I said, at that time, in that place, and this is a guy who on his normal day used to drink half a liter of beer, and this is Tecate beer. Tecate is one of those strong beers that that's a man's drink. You don't shit about a beer like that. So so like I said, going on to my story. So him looking at wine cooler is like seeing him as drinking soda. It didn't affect him personally. So he gave one to me, and I drank the wine cooler. I mean, I was 6 months old at this time, but still, I drank it, and as soon as I went to my home, my mom looked at me. And she looked at me in a weird way, like saying it was like, it was unnormal for me because I was sleeping. And then she looked to my dad and said, Benny, because that's his name. His real actual name is Benito, but in English it would be Benedict. And he call him Benny. What did you give to my son? And my mom's name is Teresa, like the Saint Teresa, but oh really? Well, God bless her soul too.
Yes.
God bless her soul too. Then, but onto my story. Like I said, my father looked at her and said, "Well, I just gave him soda. I mean, I just gave him a drink. I mean, I just gave him soda." And then he showed him the bottle, and as soon as she saw the bottle and she knew what was it, and she goes to him and said, "Benny, this is wine cooler. This has alcohol in it." And my dad just responded to her and saying, "Well, I thought it was great. I thought it was a soda. I mean, I didn't taste it at all." And she just sighed and she just picked me up and just washed me, and then she put me to bed. And that's how the little story of how I tasted my first liquor is that I tasted my first liquor. Anybody in my family, basically in my family, I am the youngest person to have ever tasted liquor in his lifetime, because I beat my cousin who tasted his liquor when he was first year old person. I beat him for 6 months. So basically, I'm the youngest person in my family to have ever tasted liquor. And I can tell stories about me in wine coolers because that's my favorite drink and that's my favorite, and that's how I started with liquor because of reasons. Like I said, that's a pretty perky story about my dad and me, and the accidental way of him looking a wine cooler and thinking of soda. He thought it was soda. That's the thing. I mean, you can't blame the guy to say that it was soda. Like I said, this is a guy who tasted Tecate. And Tecate or Corona, those are the strongest beers that you can ever taste in Mexico. In Mexico, it's either Tecate or it's Corona, but it's going to be one of those two that you're going to have to drink in your lifetime. But like I said, this is a guy who didn't know what wine coolers were out of all the things. And the brand mark of those wine coolers is Caribe Cooler out of all the things. But then again, like I said, those are the perkiness of drinking at a young age. Like I said, out of all my family, I'm one of those things that I can personally say myself with pride. At 6 months old, I was drinking my first wine cooler. And oh yes. Well, God bless his soul. Like I said, my dad, like I said, he was very ignorant of those things, but my mom knew of it. And like I said, my mom's virtually real name, it would be Maria Teresa Alvarez of Robledo. And like I said, here in Mexico, you have to have your husband's name at the end of your long-term name. But for some reason, that was not on her terms. That wasn't inscribed on her official name. Her official name was still her mom's last name, which was Quintero. But like I said, that's one of those perks that still remains in my family. But still, I remember. But still, like I said, those are one of those stories that I like to say. that like I said. And it's kind of weird to say for me, in my perspective, and since they passed away, both of them, I like to say that my mom and dad's relationship was, in a certain way, weirdest way, they never said either one of them, I love you, or they never said that. They never said in words, I love you, and or hinted or kissing. Those were one of those things that I never saw them kissing. I never saw them in my 20 years of knowing them, 20 or 25 years, ever since they were alive. I never saw them kissing.
They were like super affectionate.
But yeah, even though they never said it, they expressed their feelings towards one another. And I think I don't want to say because I'm an only child at this point. I like to say that because of me and because I was born, that's one of those reasons that even though they never said it, I was the reason that they loved each other, even though they never said it. So it's kind of like weird. And it's like I said, since now it's my 30th birthday, I'm just going to come clean on this. But my mom, in the first place, she was hinted as she was never going to have a children. She was never going to have a child of her own because she was, at this point of her life, she was 35. She had diabetes, and she married my dad in '85. My dad and my mom were married in May of 1985, but I was born in October 1987. So on this term and age, the doctors were telling my mom that she was never going to have children, and even if she did, and this is coming from my cousins later on in my lifetime, that either she was going to have this child or she was going to die. And I'm going to have to say this because, like I said, she really did wanted a child, and she told me in her lifetime that she wanted to have a child and name him, and in English would be Joseph Francis, but in Spanish would be Jose Francisco. She always wanted to have a child and name the child Jose Francisco because of her grandpa and her of her great grandpa and her dad, and her grandpa and her dad. That's the only reason why she. That's one of those reasons. I don't know if there were more, but that's one of those reasons that she talked to me and said, "I always wanted to have a son to name because of it." Now, the reason of my dad's side being named Jose in a certain way was a bonus for her because her father-in-law happened to be named Jose in a certain way. So the family of my dad's side was like, okay, he's going to be named Jose like our father, like our great father. And that's how everybody came up with the idea, because everybody thought that I was named because of my grandpas, because my grandpa was named Jose and my grandfather from my mom's side was named Francisco. But when my father died, and this is kind of weird from my mom, is she told me the real truth of why she wanted me to name Jose Francisco. And she told me that, and like I said, this is a woman who basically gave her life to have a child. She risked her life to having an only child, which is me, to be brought up in this world. She basically risked her life. She had diabetes when she was 35. She in a certain way, she was sterile. In a certain way, she couldn't have kids. And even if she did, in her condition and her age, she was going to risk her life. She risked her life into having me out of all the people to be brought up in this world. This is a woman who had determination and the moxie, if you call it, to have a child and name the child like she wanted to. Like I said, this is one of those things that I don't like to talk about abortions and about people who choose not to have children because of rapes and all those things, because that's a delicate topic that I don't want to go, because I know from my opinion I stand for, and because of my mom and because of her determination to have a child out of her life, she risked her life for me. And how could I be less of how could I be in a position to say that this woman risked her life and you guys want to take the life out of your own wombs for that? I mean, I don't know, that for me is selfishness. I don't know, I mean, like I said, that's a delicate topic that I don't want to discuss, and I will never discuss it out of the stream in my lifetime because of it, because of reasons, because of my mom and her decision of having a child. There are a lot of women out there who are sterile, who don't have the opportunity like my mom had of having a child. And this is, like I said, this is a woman who risked her life, basically, to have me. And who am I to say, uh, out of all the people, she shouldn't have a child? Who am I to say that? No, I wouldn't say that. I am forever grateful for my mom. And those are one of those things that I'm going to say, since it's my 30th birthday, and I'm going to say this right now, is that before this show ever happened, is that my mom, in a certain way, was my best friend. In a certain way. And this is sad coming from a guy who never had a friend. It's true, I had childhood friends, I had high school friends, I had junior high school friends, I had elementary friends. But none of them can say they were my best friend. That title and that title alone was my mom in a certain way. And she and her, out of, I can say my mom and my dad and my aunt, who not so long ago passed away too, because I considered her like a second mom too, was in a certain way my friend, but my mom was my best friend. I never had best friend, and that's something that I always watched in the movies, in the television. Everybody had a best friend. I never did. I had my mom as a best friend. And when she passed away, it was heart-blowing for me in a certain way. It was like my whole world was crashing down. I mean, I never thought I could survive. When she died, and I was at her deathbed, when I was basically at her bedside when she died. I would never forget that day. December 16, 2010, and 10:30 p.m. in the morning, and you will see that on DeviantArt because I posted it on DeviantArt as soon as it happened, and I posted a photo of her. You can all watch it on DeviantArt because I posted a journal and I posted her photo because I didn't want her memory or her legacy be forgotten, because this is a woman who, in a certain way, was forgotten. And I kind of sort of felt that way ever towards my family, relatives from my mom's side and my dad's side. They sort of forgot her. And like I said, when ever since this show, like I said, that sort of struck me. And one of those episodes that I only watched it only once, and I never watched it again. I will watch it, I will say, is the episode in which Pinkie Pie settles the score with the Paris Sprites, and she dealt it in her way. Mm-hmm. And the day of the airing, which is December 17th, 2010, and I remember that because on December 16th, 2010, my mom died. So I like to think that my mom, in a certain way, is in Ponyville. In a certain way. That is the only reason when I watched it and I looked at the air date, and I watched it and I never saw it again. Like I said, I will watch it someday, but not today, because when I saw Pinkie Pie, I saw my mom in a certain way. Pinkie Pie is my mom. And that's one of those delicate things that I don't want to say, but hey, it's my 30th birthday. I mean, she brought me to this world, and it would be selfishness of me not to talk about her and talk about me. But like I said, those are one of those things that I don't want to talk about when talking about Pinkie Pie, because I know who if my mom were to be alive today, I know who would she choose out of all the main six, and if I introduced her to the show, who would she pick? And I know Pinkie Pie would be her favorite pony of them all. The same thing with my aunt. My aunt, I had an aunt who was very close to me, and she was like a second mother to me. And I know her character and who would she pick out of the main six, and it would be Rarity out of all the people. And at first, when I saw Big Mac, I would like to say that I picked Big Mac when I was talking to my dad, and he would pick Big Mac out of all the things. But when I saw Bright Mac, I saw Bright Mac and Pear Butter, or Buttercup at this point, and I saw them and said, those are my parents. And the perfect pair made me out of... I virtually shed tears because of it. Because I saw my dad and my mom virtually in this world. And it brought me emotions to me. And like I said, it would be selfish of me not to talk about my parents on this holiest of days, which is December 23rd of all the days. Because I was supposed to be born on October 22nd. And this is one of those stories that my mom talked about, is it that my mom said her water broke because she was attending to her older brother. And at this point, her older brother, which, by the way, his name was also Francisco at this point, was a vegetable at this stage. He couldn't talk, he couldn't say anything. He said he was vegetable. He was in a vegetable state. And my mom had to attend him while I was still in my mom's womb. So that's another thing that I respect my mom out of all the persons. And I could say that she was my best friend and my hero because of it. Is that she attended my uncle's estate, and on this day, I think it was on the 21st or the 22nd. No, it was the 22nd. It was the day on the 22nd, which she attended to him, and her water broke because of it. Because she was climbing to something. She was reaching for something, and her water broke. And they as soon as the water broke, they were going to this town hospital. But the town hospital said, "You know what? Let's get you to the capital city, to the city capital," which by far, if at all, it was Mexicali. If any brony out there who knows, Mexicali, Baja California is the capital city of the state. So I was born in Mexicali, Baja California on the 23rd. And that is because of the negligence of the hospital of the state, of the government's hospital inns. So out of some miracle, I was born healthy on the 23rd. And I know the 23rd of October is the doctor's day in Mexico. So I was born on the day of the medical professional doctor's day. Out of all the days, I was born on Doctor's Day in Mexico. Mexico has their Day of the Doctors, which is which is October 23rd. And I was born on that day, and nobody, like I said, nobody attended to her. But I came out of there healthy on 9:45 at night. I soon became healthy, and the rest is history. Like I said, like I said, I mean, I would be selfish for myself if I wanted to talk about my mother and what she did, and the lengths that this woman had to do to bring a boy, because she wanted a boy out of all the things into this world. It would be selfish of me not to talk about her and her legacy and the way that she died. And like I said, I like to think that this fandom saved me in a certain way because of it. Because when I saw the show and when I saw the characters, I fell in love with the show, and I instantly became a brony because of it. Like I said, I saw it when season 3 ended, and when the Christian Girls were starting, and when season 4 was about to begin out of all the seasons. And I like to think there was a reason for me to watch it on that particular season. And like I said, I became a brony ever since. And ever since, I became a huge fan of this fandom and everything about it. And that's how dedicated I was. I was dedicated. At first, I fell in love with it. And then I fell in love with Dusty Cat, with Dr. Wolf, because Dusty Cat brought me to Dr. Wolf. Dr. Wolf brought me to Civil Claw, and Civil Claw brought me to the whole brony reviewing community. Of all the brony, I know all the brony reviewing community by heart. All the voice actors from the brony community, everything about the fandom, the horse fandom. I know Bright Idea. I know Lightning Bliss. I know Toon Critic. I know everybody because I was dedicated to this fandom, and like I said, in itself, the fandom saved me from a point in time in which I basically didn't have hope for myself. And that is a question that I like to leave to anybody, and to anybody alone. In the words of the famous president of these United States of America, JFK, is that, ask not what the fandom can do for you, ask what can you do for the fandom. But I like to reverse it in a certain way and saying, what has the fandom do to you in the stream? And I like to ask you, out of all the people, Rocky Stallion or Jared Stringer, what has the fandom done for you in a certain way?
Man, I don't know how I can follow that. It's obviously been a lot more to you than I could ever imagine it. You know, I mean, me, honestly, for me, it's just, I don't know. I don't think I've ever really thought of it.
You never thought of it as deep as I
just
did.
A really well made show.
Yeah, that's the only thing we can say is that it's a very well made show. And
it's a very well made show, and people who are fans of it, you know, are, you know, some of the nicest people you'll ever meet.
Yeah, well,
and me, I don't have a lot of friends outside of, you know, outside the realm of the internet. I don't have any friends that I hang out with. I mean, obviously, I had friends that I went to school with. I had friends that, you know, I went to college with. I've got, you know, cousins and, you know, siblings. Well, half and step siblings. You know, I mean, I've got family and that, but really, outside of that, there's nobody I really hang out with. When I get home, you know, most of the people who I talk to online are I met in some way, shape, or form
because of the show.
Thanks to the show.
Mm.
Because of the show. So,
I can. Well,
I guess it's safe to say that's probably the biggest thing that I've been able to gain from being involved in fandom.
Well, let me put it.
Gain a lot of friends.
Let me put it in this way, and like I said, this is the reason why I made my character Professor Mule in a certain way, because I like to analyze everything and my surroundings. Is that in a certain way, without thinking, is that you made an effort into the show, so much so that you created this character that we all know and love, which is Rocket E Stallion, and you made comics of him, and you made everything surrounding him with girlfriend, sister, and everything surrounding in his world. This thing that we all know and love. That's how I attracted myself to you, because of this comic and the artwork that you did. And I'm pretty sure, if I could be wrong in this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I am pretty sure this is the only fandom that you made that you virtually took your time and effort to make an OC and to make a character as much as Rocket E Stringer, because I haven't seen you done anything of a character other than this character in this show, in this fandom of them all. Am I correct?
Yeah, and that's another thing. I mean, had it not been for the show, I don't know if I ever would have come up with something like that. I don't know if I ever would have. I don't know if I ever would have came up with a character that, that was so much like me that I could, pretty much, kind of
took your time and effort
tell a story through.
Yeah, took your time and effort to do something.
Exactly.
To do something as bold as something like this, into making a character that we all know and love, which is Rocket E Stringer. Out of all the characters, like I say, the people in itself responded to it, and it made so much into liking this character that they made a fan club out of all the people. And like I said, you in itself were like I said, you were the in itself made this happen because of the show, and because I think the only thing I can leave with this is that friendship is magic. I think in its core, and I can challenge any reviewer out there, any who is watching the stream in itself, to tell me that friendship isn't magic. Because that is the core thing that Laura Faust left in season 2 when she did. And the basic thing that she wanted to do is that friendship is magic. And it is. In any plausible way that it could be magic. And whether it be in an episode, so that, like I said, for me and for myself, and it's simple as that, is the title of the show it's basically that. It's My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. And that is one of those reasons why I wanted to go to the conventions so hard on brony conventions. Is that I've seen the people going into these conventions, and I really wished I could have gone to any of these conventions, but I don't know. This is just me talking. Maybe I will never go to a brony convention in my lifetime. Maybe I will. It's just that divine will or power beyond my control and belief to say it otherwise. But into my heart, I know that
Never say never.
Never say never. That is one of those things that I like to say this as well. Never say never. And but like I said, even though friendship in his heart is magic, That is what this fandom is in its hardcore. I think this is what it compares us to Rick and Morty fans, to Star Trek fans, or Star Wars fans, the Trekkies or the Star Wars, or anything fandom out there alike, is that we are the only ones in this fandom that you can see there are the nicest, most kindest, most gentle persons out there that you can ever meet. And I've seen it in the Pacific PonyCon. I was in a 40 year, I could say this much. The time that I was in the Pacific PonyCon was virtually between 3 hours and an hour and a half. And that wasn't even in the con itself. I was in the staff room in which I wanted them to give to a special sun pony, well, not special sun pony, but special persons out there who were at the con, in which was Dr. Wolf, Lightning Bliss, and the Whistlenator, also known as Thespio, who is also famous in the fandom. And I gave them a personal item from that I made from my own hands. I'm not going to say it which items were, because I want to know if they got it or not, and if they did, I want them to tell me what that particular item was, especially Thespio, because when I did that gift that I made for him, her mom died on December. So I can relate to Thespio out of all the people in saying that it's hard to lose a family member on December. Out of all the holidays that you could pick on, it's hard to lose a family member on December. And I can relate to Thespio on that sort, because I too lost a family member. I too lost a mother on December. And it's not like being Sankora, like rhyming or anything like that, but like I said, it's like, it's just me